This week on For the Love of Designing, we're going to make a New Year's Eve dress. Okay, so I'm looking at the shiny material because I want my dress to shine for New Year's Eve. Look at this, how pretty. And this is going to be the inside lining because it's stretchy. So what I bought was a couple of yards of some blue stretchy material. It's kind of a little stretchy. And then I bought some shiny stuff. So this is going to be the inner layer of the dress, and this is the outer layer of the dress. So we'll get started. So I pulled this out of my closet. I'm going to use it as a pattern. So what I've done was I laid it on my material. I took my felt pen and I outlined the dress. I outlined both sides and kind of around the top. Then I took and pinned it so when I cut it, the dress stays together. So we're going to finish cutting it. So we've got it all cut out already, and this is going to be the top of it. And I haven't figured out how I want to design it yet, so that's why I kind of just went around like that. So now I'm going to take and go put it on my mannequin and start figuring out how I want to design it. So I haven't decided how I want to do the neck yet. And so I don't know if I want a higher neck, or do we want a V-neck, or a little something like this. This is not going to be that long. It's always better to have a little more material, even if it's on the sides or on the bottom, because you can always cut away what you don't want. And I bought some material with sequins on it, and after we sew the sides up and I figure out how I want the top, I'm probably going to use this somewhere on this. I don't know yet if I want to put it like this, or do we want to do it like this with a V-neck? But this is going to be on the dress. So it's going to be a shiny New Year's Eve dress. I've decided how short I want the dress now, so I've got my ruler here, and I'm going to take a felt pen and I'm just gonna slightly make a line and just trim it to how short I want it. And then we're gonna sew the sides up. So this is the under layer. I haven't sewn it up yet, but I've decided that I want short sleeves in it. So I found an old tank top of mine. We're gonna take this tank top and lay it on top of the dress because I wanna make an outline where I want to cut the sleeves off. So just make sure you get it on there very straight. Make sure the underarms go where the underarms are. So you can see a lower piece and a higher piece on the tank top, but we'll worry about that later because all I want to do right now is cut the sleeves off, and we'll do this later. You can pin this down if you want with safety pins just to keep it from moving, but I don't need to do that. We're going to do this to the other side, and then we're going to cut them out. So we're going to cut it now. We're going to cut the sleeves off. And you can leave this on there and cut it, or you can just take it off. I'd rather take it off because I've already got my lines where I'm going to cut it. We've just cut the sleeves out. Okay, so we're gonna go and sew up the sides now. We're gonna sew here, we're gonna sew here, And at that point, I'm gonna decide how I wanna do the neck. So I like to try it on the mannequin before I sew it up. Just kind of pin it up where I know I'm going to be sewing. We're gonna wait, this is gonna be the last thing we do. We're gonna go sew up the sides right now. So I wanna tack this together. Looks pretty good. And we left this like this for a reason, because later I'm probably gonna just take my scissors and just kind of cut around like that, make it a little lower, make a neck on it. So we'll go sew it up right now. So we're getting ready to sew up the sides, and I like to start with the underarms and go down. That's because if this is too long down here, it's easier to cut it down here rather than go up there and fix under the arms. Sewn up the sides, both sides, and this is still kind of raw. I haven't sewn that yet, but I've done this side. See how it's, now that's going to be where the arm's at. I haven't sewn the top yet. So the next thing, we're going to do this side like this side. It's supposed to look like this. We're going to sew up the top last, because I still have to figure out how I want this. I want to hem that up just a little bit, like we did right here. So we're going to do this side like we done this side. That's the underarm that we're gonna sew up because we don't want the raw edges. So I've taken and kind of turned it under so we could sew it. So you want to take it and just roll it under, kind of turn it down, just to sew up the raw edges. So we've got the dress all sewn up on the sides and around the arms. And I put some safety pins up on the top because we still have to sew the top. What I want to do right now is, I just kind of want it to have a little neck in it. So I need this to stay out of the way. And it's okay if you make some mistakes with your felt pin, because I'm gonna have an outer layer that goes over this. Bring it up to here, bring it all the way up to the corner where you're gonna cut it. So we're gonna cut all this off. But when you cut it, make sure you leave it a little extra, because you're gonna wanna turn it under and sew the raw part like I did the sleeves. And you do the same for the back. It's all about how you want to do it. So it's just kind of an idea. I know it's not straight. We'll just work with that later. Okay, so I've pinned the shoulders, I've pinned the top of it together. We're gonna cut the neck now. We're just gonna take this, bring it over, make sure the underarms match. Okay, and so now I wanna cut the neck. So I'm gonna open it up. Now, if I don't like the neck, I can cut it a little lower, which I think I want to cut it a little lower. I'm just going to take my pins all out because they're kind of in my way. So I want to make sure these are matching. Get both underarms together, laid out. Okay, that should be good. Let's see. So that's the neck. I don't want it any lower, but you can cut it low if you want. I just want a little neck. So now I want to go sew this together, and I want to go sew this, and I want to sew this. So then it looks like that when we're finished. So I've kind of got the underpiece made, and that's kind of why I kept the neck in it, because I'm not sure if I want this to have a V-neck or do I want the sleeves in it. Whatever I decide I'm gonna design, this will go underneath like a little slip. And so I don't know, we might do a V-neck. Maybe we want to do a off-the-shoulder thing. Maybe I want a low neck. So this is kind of our options. I've laid out my sequin material. So I've just laid the dress on top of it. And so we're just going to cut, I'm going to cut all around the dress. Right now I'm using the under layer to form a rough contour of the outer layer. And then later I'm going to make a rigid pattern from the under layer to tighten up the contour of this outer sequin layer. Okay, so here we have what will be either the back side or the front side of the dress. Okay, so we're going to repeat the same thing that we did here. So we'll have a front side and a back side. I'll take the sequin material and we're going to sew it together. We're going to put this piece up, the shiny facing up, and this shiny facing down. That way when we get through sewing it, I can turn it the right side. So we're going to take and line it up. Okay, so we're going to put that on top of the other piece, and we're going to take and sew up the sides, and right here, and then right here. I can always cut the sleeves off if I don't want long sleeves. So I'm going to make sure all my sides are together, and I'm going to take and pin it all up. We're going to pin it all the way up to here, and leave this open, and pin this, and this side. And I'm not worried about the neck yet. Now we're going to sew up the other side. But I wanted to try it on to make sure I had enough, see how much I needed to sew it up on the sides. So we still have to sew this side up. And this is the outer piece without the under layer. I went to Michael's and found some very thin poster board paper. It's real flexible. And this is the rigid pattern that I created out of the under layer in order to tighten up the outer sequin layer. And I took my felt pen and I outlined it. And I know the paper's not long enough for the dress, but that's okay because however short you want the dress, you can always just come down a little more without the paper, as long as you've got this. So here's my pattern. And we'll be using this for the New Year's Eve dress. Okay, so this is how I'm going to use my pattern. This is the sequin material, and this is going to be the outer piece of the dress. This is going to be the liner of this. So this is the under piece, and I want to make sure that the outer piece covers the under piece. So what we're going to do is lay it on there. I've already put my pins in, so I'll know where to sew. And it's always better to have a little extra because you can always cut away. I've already got this side sewn up to here only, but I'm going to have to cut some of this away. And the top I'm not sure yet. Maybe short sleeves, I don't know, maybe long sleeves. So we're getting ready to sew up this side now. So I put the pattern underneath the dress so I could kind of get the shape I want. Whatever I decide, I'm either gonna just sew it and go ahead and make long sleeves, or if I decide I don't want any sleeves, I'll just take my scissors and cut right along here and kind of up here. But leave the extra so you can sew it together. I've sewn up the sides up to about here. So this is all sewn. And the next thing, I put my pins in. We're gonna cut the extra off. We're gonna go along my pins and cut this extra off that I don't need. And this is gonna be the neck. We're gonna leave that open. And I've got my pattern underneath here. So I'll make sure the outside of the dress will fit the inside of the dress. Okay, so I have my pattern under here, and I've decided that I want short sleeves, and then I want to extend the sleeves with my own delicate design. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna slightly cut it off a little bit. So we have short sleeves. The sequins, they're falling off. It's where you cut it, then they fall off. Okay, so what I want to do now is just kind of pin up the top where I'm gonna sew. So we're gonna sew this. We're gonna trim this a little more. Well, we still have to trim some of it. So I wanna go along the sides just a little bit. Remember, I've already sewn up the sides, but just a little bit right here, I wanna double sew it. That way I know where the underarms are. So we wanna just stick some pins up here. That way we're gonna sew this. We're gonna sew a little halfway down the sides. Just as I was finishing up, I broke my needle on my sequins material. I broke my needle as I was hemming this because I had to double it like this. So if you use material with sequins on it, you might want to be careful. So I had some extra material left, and as you can see, I already cut this. This was the bottom piece of the material, so I figured why not use this nylon stuff for the dress. So I have two pieces here. I just kind of cut the bottom piece off, and then I cut it in two pieces. Just make it match so both pieces are the same. So now we have two pieces. These are going to be the sleeves. I attached this onto there, and I think I want this a little longer to about here. So I have a little extra material. So what I'm thinking about doing is attaching this onto there. We're gonna attach it on there like that. It's gonna look like something like this. And that's gonna be a sleeve. So I've got one of my sleeves on here, and I'm probably gonna shorten this just a little more. It's gonna look something like this. Because I don't want it quite as long. And so we're gonna hand sew all this on because this is really delicate material. Okay, so we're gonna pin the sleeve on now. After that, I'm gonna hand sew it. So you wanna pin it on there. We're gonna pin this all around. Okay, so we've got the sleeves pinned on now, and this is still open right here. I've left this open so I can get up in there and sew my sleeves on. So this will be the last part we sew up. But you wanna make sure your sleeves are even. It's right about to the 4. Let's go to this side, make sure it's the same. That's gonna be about right. got my needle threaded everything because my machine will mess up the nylon. So I'm gonna hand sew it. So I just kind of flip that back like that. This will probably be the hardest part because I have to do it without really seeing the inside. Okay, so I've finished the New Year's Eve dress, and as you can see, I made an underpiece. It's like a little slip. We've put sleeves on it, and we hemmed it up. I decided to go with kind of a half neck. It's a really simple dress. You just kind of pull it over, and so yeah, we've finished it. I've got it all finished.
Me say meow meow. If you like what you saw, please give the subscribe button a pop and check out another video here.